Friends, welcome to another edition of Wild and True. Today we want to continue on with the rut. I sure wish our rut would get in down here in South Mississippi. But we want to continue on with the rut and pick up a few more tips and techniques that I've used in the past that's helped me end up with a deer. But first, let me thank a few of the people that helped bring this to you. Gary Stevie and Three Heart Outfitters, your North Idaho Adventure Headquarters. Cat Paw Bend, your source for seedlings and seeds for making your own game paradise. Winchester Shot Shells, packing the punch for trophy longbeards. Mossy Oak Camouflage, hiding hunters in plain sight for over 30 plus years. And Federal Ammunition, simply the best over the counter ammo for big game, period. Well, they also make some stuff for small game, and they also make some stuff for waterfowl hunters, and they also make some stuff for turkey hunters. So, all in all, Federal Ammunition is the way to go. People ask me all the time, they're like, why do you shoot factory ammunition? The reason why I shoot factory ammunition is because I never fly anywhere and not have the ability to go pick up a box of ammunition and make my gun eat it. When you start hand loading and get your gun that technical, not that hand loading is technical, but when you start hand loading and all that, and anything happens, you can run out of ammunition and all that. Especially me. Y'all done heard me before in them Wild Venture videos. I done said it one time, and I'll say it again. As long as it's moving, I'm flinging lead at it till it stops or I can't see it no more. Cause there is hope when there's lead in the air. But back to this rut thing. I'm not going to sit here and try to go through the different phases of the whitetail rut. Because as we mentioned in part one of this, the rut is kind of a continuation or a continuing evolving process, especially in the southern United States. You can't tie it to a set number of days. It may have a peak, or it may be one day that the rut activity is greater than others, but that could be affected by moon phase, that could be affected by feed, it can be affected by lots of different things. What you're looking for is a period of time that the majority of the buck deer are trying to mate with does. And there's an easy way to keep up with that, and that's through the tarsal glands on the bucks. If you'll look at the tarsal glands, they'll be snow white to begin with, but the more they urinate and rub their hocks together and urinate down across the top of them, making scrapes and stuff, the more stained that tarsal gland gets, the more in rut the animal is. And of course, it's different things. You can see the swollen neck on some of them. I usually end up liking, if I'm particularly gonna kill one, he usually looks like a bird dog pointer by the time I get hold to him. And that is he's done run down to the point that you can see his backbone, you can see his ribs. He's just done all he could do in chasing and breeding activity. So the typical signs left from the rut, or the most important sign, I would say would have to be the scrapes. And the scrapes become important because they almost serve like nightclubs. Scrapes are where bucks meet does, or does meet bucks, however you want to put it. And I, there's some of them that they actually run, like they run a straight line down the top of a ridge along the edge of an old logging road. And there's some that they actively run. And I've also read of a study where they observed the deer, and I don't know the exact situation that they observed him in. I don't know, but I know that it was submitted as technical data, so it was not in a canned environment. In other words, the deer wasn't in a chain link fence or nothing. Uh, but they observed the deer following this doe, and it was something astronomical. That deer made like 100 different scrapes in one day. And you know fully well that deer didn't intend on coming back to those scrapes. Uh, it was just something that he did to burn the energy during the day. He would just scrape and all that. He'd follow the doe and then he'd scrape again. So, you know, what you're looking for, and Gene Wenzel of the Wenzel brothers, he was really good at documenting all this to where you could understand it. What you're looking for is like a community scrape. And I've seen them. I've seen scrapes big enough that I could park my truck in. And that being no joke. And I had a couple of three scrapes that I had located that were like that, that if you sat on them consistently, I would always sit off of them a little bit because the woods was fairly open. And say the scrape, I knew the scrape was like right at the bottom of the hill. I sit at the top of the hill and all that. And I had two or three of those located that were consistent producers of more than one deer a year. I would I would be able to sit on that particular scrape, and you know, some of them, one of them, I shot three good bucks off it. And it was like if a buck got in the vicinity, he knew that scrape was over there. And so he'd come in over there and everything. Another one, trying to think, another one was at the very back. It was right where a pasture ran into a like a bird country pine plantation. In other words, a burnt maintained area and all that. But it was a thick hedgerow type situation, and there was a big opening out there in the middle of it, and that scrape sat in that opening. And I killed bucks coming into it from off the property, and then I killed bucks from within the property coming to it from within. I'm kind of pointing down at the ground, and that because the way I had the stand position, I could see both pretty good. And I'll never forget, it was, I don't remember what year it was, and I was sitting there, and I hadn't seen nothing all evening. The wind was blowing blue branches, and for some reason, everybody else who went to the barn, I think they had done pretty much decided they were going to take the evening off and go to the barn and just sit around and tell hunting stories and do what all deer hunters do best. And there was lots of days that something would make me go that somebody say, come on and go with us. I'd be like, no, I got this place I'm going to go back over there. But anyway, that was one of them days. They all went to the barn. I went to the tree stand. And I sat there, and the wind would blow. And I was like, man, this is pretty windy out to be out here. And I had a climber on that particular setup. And I always say when I start pointing my finger at the ground and the wind moves the tree good enough that it moves my finger, I said, it's got to be doing the same thing to the crosshairs. And but anyway, I climbed up and I was sitting up in there, and along right toward it getting dusky dark, it was already pretty late. I heard this deer wind had laid by then, and it was, I don't know how much shooting light was left, but it wasn't much. But back then in Alabama, if you could see him, you could shoot him. So I kept sitting there. I heard this deer coming, and he ended up coming basically down the same trail that I had walked in on, and I could hear him. And once I got to where I could hear him moving good, I could tell it was going to be a buck. And if people say, how you tell it was going to be a buck? Well, he did that buck walk, for lack of a better term. I could just hear in the leaves when he would buck walk. And somewhere in there, I reckon about 3/4 of the way, I was kind of on a rise, and the trail kind of was at the bottom of the rise, and the scrape was right up against the fence over there against the pine plantation. And so along about halfway in that first part, before he got to this opening where I could see all the way to the scrape and everything, I heard him grunt one time. And then I heard him stiff-legged walk that, he wasn't careful walking. It was just like a stiff-legged buck walk and all that kind of stuff. And so I already had the scope up and everything like that. The way everything was situated, there was a pretty good opening that began once he broke out of that initial thicket. There was a pretty good opening, and from there all the way to the scrape, it was probably, I don't know, scrape was probably 100 yards from him, and the opening started at about 50, and all that. Well, I had my gun pointed kind of in the middle of both of them, and I saw something kind of out the corner of my eye, and I looked again, and then I kind of looked again, and about the third time I bent my head down and looked a little bit where I could see a little bit better up under there. I could see the rack then, and also, of course, I just went to the scope then because I knew he was going to walk right across through there. So when he walked across through the scrape, when he walked across the scope, as soon as he got right in the right place, I touched the trigger, and